everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a lovely day. You join me in the living room today for a declutter video. Now, you might be looking around my living room and thinking, Charlotte, what are you on about? That isn't even cluttered. And you're right, but this room is very deceptive. I have two of these cupboards, one here, one at the front there, you can't see it, and then a set of 3 drawers at the bottom and a bookcase to the back corner there. Excellent storage, really good, because they hold a lot of stuff, and you know, you close the cupboard doors on them and then you can pretend that you live in a very minimal and clutter-free space. But that does come with a downside, and that is they are very easy to become a bit of a dumping ground because you just sort of put the items in there that don't really have a home. So whilst it may look like this space doesn't really need a declutter, there is a lot going on, I'd say, especially in those drawers. I don't think I've ever properly been through those before, so they are in need of a declutter. However, that being said, I do feel like I'm reaching the point now where I'm getting on top of things, where a declutter isn't going to take me a day or 2 days to do. I can spend, you know, part of a morning to have a look through and do a quick declutter just to manage the situation and keep on top of it. It doesn't take me a really long time anymore to do a declutter, which is just, you know, it's something I've been aiming towards because I've spent the time doing my declutters thoroughly and being kind of ruthless with it. Now it is a much simpler, quicker and easier process. You will notice in this video I'm even going to take my own advice from a previous video. So my video that was 10 things you can declutter now, I filmed some snippets for that video of the things I suggested you declutter, but I didn't formally declutter them for myself because I knew I was going to come in here and do the living room declutter. So that actually includes books on my bookshelf and cables in one of these drawers. I feel like today I'm going to take on this declutter a little bit differently because, as I've mentioned, there's kind of 4 things I need to focus on. There's the bookcase, that'll be a very quick and easy job, 2 cabinets, and then a set of drawers down here at the front. I am going to do them one at a time. One thing I have done in the past when I've decluttered is get absolutely everything out. And I think that is really good when you start out because it is helpful to get an idea of everything you've got. And I think until you really see it all and look at it, you don't necessarily appreciate that. But at this point, I've got a good idea of what I've got. And one of the mistakes I can make is if I do get everything out, I then lose the motivation and, you know, I'll go and have a sit down and a cup of tea and then I'll think, oh, do I really want to go back to all of that just in my space? And because this is my main living space, I really don't want to make a big mess and then not be able to relax in this room later on. So I am just going to go around one cupboard, if you like, at a time and declutter that and not get everything out and make a big mess. Which, as I said, it can have its advantages, but I just don't feel that's my vibe today. So let's get on with it. Just jumping in here mid-editing. This video turned out to be insanely long, so I'm going to split it into 2 parts. Just, apparently I can talk a lot. Who knew? So I'm going to split it into 2 parts, but I don't explain that anywhere through the video, so I thought I would just pop it in here. So this will be part 1, and then part 2 will start very abruptly and I'll upload that separately. So 2-part living room declutter, just so that was clear. So you join me first of all down by the bookcase. I have just pulled this forward so it's more visible. It is usually flat against the back wall there. And as you can see, I don't have loads of books. The books I have here are ones usually that I haven't read yet. And then any books that I have read that I don't plan on reading again, I just declutter. And then any books that I have read but I've wanted to keep for whatever reason, rereading or just because I wanted to keep them, I have put away upstairs. An example of that is my Harry Potter set. That's one set of books I've just not got rid of, so I've kept my Harry Potters. I don't know if at this point I will read them again. I have read them all at least more than once. I think the first one I've read so many times, you know, sometimes when I've gone back in to read the series again and not got very far. I know for a fact Goblet of Fire is the one I've read the least. I just didn't get on with that book. And I don't know if it's because I was quite young when I read it, and that would have been like, as a child, my first really hefty book to read. And yeah, I don't know if that was the reason, or if because it's when the story starts to get a bit darker as a child that really put me off. But then, you know, I loved Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince and Deathly Hallows, so I don't know. But yeah, Goblet of Fire is my least read. Ever since the first reading, I've always been a little bit put off by it. But Half-Blood Prince was my favourite. Anyway, moving on. So, on this unit, I do eventually plan to have only books that I want to read, and also that isn't very many. This is very cluttered for me. There's a lot going on here. I know this isn't loads of books. I'm not a big reader. I am trying to read more, but I'm not a massive reader. I enjoy, you know, getting cozy with a cup of tea and a book, but I also have a very distracted mind, so I'll be reading down the page and my mind will literally be elsewhere. Even if it's a book I'm really interested in, I do get distracted, but I'm also adamant that I won't miss a part in the story, so I will go back and reread the page, which means I'm a very slow reader. Anyway, so on here I do have a plant at the top. You can just see it creeping down here, and then I have mine and my husband's wedding photo on here. I'm currently reading still very slowly. We are now on page 535 of A Clash of Kings. So this is George R.R. Martin, basically the Game of Thrones books, A Song of Ice and Fire. So I'm on the second one, which means realistically I should have decluttered the first one by now. I think I kind of just kept it there as part of the set, but now I think about it, I would rather just have books I read on the bookshelf, so I'm actually going to declutter this to begin with. Down at the bottom I've then got the other A Song of Ice and Fire books, so obviously that is future reading. I feel like that alone is more than a year's worth of reading for me, and I set the goal to read all the books, you know, that I wanted to read, so that would be most of these on this shelf. I am going to let go of a few, but I think even then I'm going to struggle. I think just A Song of Ice and Fire alone is going to be more than a year's worth of reading for me, but we shall see. So that's what I'm currently reading. Then I've got the others there. We have a flag book. Now, since this isn't really a book in the sense like, because I don't want to say fiction or non-fiction, because even a non-fiction book, you know, I would sit and read it. This isn't even that sort of thing. It's more just information. So I feel like this can be put away upstairs somewhere. It's not actually mine, it's my husband's. But I do like it. I don't know what it is about flags and maps and things like that. I really do like them. So I'm actually going to hold on to this, but I'm going to put it away upstairs somewhere, just because I don't want it on the shelf. You know, I do have a goal that eventually I'll just have like 2 or 3 books, you know, stacked up, like very aesthetically pleasing and not, you know, all just crammed in and balancing on top of each other. Or even to the point where I don't need the bookshelf because I just have one book and maybe I keep it on the coffee table, and once I've read that book, you know, it goes and I get another one. Who knows? I've then got this book. This is A Christmas Cracker by Trisha Ashley. This was my mum's. I did ask her, not Christmas Just Gone, the one before. I did ask her if she had a book over the festive season that I could read, and I didn't. So I'm going to ask her if she wants this back. I know her answer will be to just send it to the charity shop or put it in a charity bag. That's what she does with books. She buys her books very cheap, often again from a charity shop, and then she just gives them back to the charity shop when she's done. My next one is the Arthur Conan Doyle Sherlock stories. It's actually got the TV show front cover though, but they are the original stories. That's just a selected collection, selected and introduced by Mark Gatiss and Stephen Moffat. I love the TV series Sherlock, so when I saw this, I think my mum bought this for my birthday a few years ago, but it just goes to show how slow I am at reading, and I really don't like to start a new book whilst I've got another one on the go. With the exception of fiction versus non-fiction, I can usually have one each, fiction and non-fiction, on the go, but that being said, I don't read a lot of non-fiction, but I really don't like having 2 fiction books on the go at the same time. I'm very much read it, finish it, and then start another one. So this is where I'm going once I've finished my A Song of Ice and Fire. So in terms of when we will actually get to this, could be quite a while. These are both my husband's books. He's read A Casual Vacancy and I don't foresee him reading it again, but also he is just so against decluttering, so I will see if he still wants to keep this. And then he was reading A Cuckoo's Calling, though looking at this very sly bookmark hiding in here tells me he never actually finished it, so you know, I'll see if he wants to keep that as well. But if neither of us has the intention of reading it, I don't think it needs to be kept on the bookshelf. Next is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro, which I do really want to read. I picked this up in a charity shop, I think for 50 50p once when I was out and about, and it was one that I didn't want to pass up. You know, when you see a book that you know you want to read, and it might not be one you're going to read right now, but you think, well, when I come to want to read it, I don't want to have to then buy it full price because, you know, this was 50p. So I've got it and I will hold on to it until I come to read it. I really, really thought the movie was really good. So I will be keeping this and reading this at another point in time. So my next one is Caroline Duffy, The World's Wife. This is a poetry book which I read during English literature, and all the pages have got my notes written on them from when I studied the course at school. I really enjoyed these poems. I think they just really encourage you to think, which I loved. At this point, I don't think I need to keep this anymore, and I think I'll just let it go. I loved The Great Gatsby. I don't know if the reason I loved The Great Gatsby at school was because it was such a short book and I was actually able to read it. You know, when you're at school and they say, right, you need to read these 4 chapters and write an essay on it over the weekend. I used to be like, it's going to take me the whole weekend to read 4 chapters because I was such a slow reader. Ah, The Great Gatsby, a book that I could finish by the deadline. I remember really enjoying The Great Gatsby at school, and then obviously the film came out in whatever year the film came out, the Leo one. I remember really enjoying the book. I love the film. I would say it's up there in sort of my all-time favourite films. I don't know top however many, but it's up there. But I've never then gone back and revisited this, and you know, it's a short book. I feel like this is one I could sneakily read between maybe finishing A Clash of Kings and before starting, what's the next one called? A Storm of Swords. I feel like I could do that. But I do just want to reread it because, you know, I think I mentioned it in a video not long ago. Because, you know, when you go back and reread another book, you can get more from it. You might have missed things early on. And I think for me personally, after seeing a film of something, it does make the book easier to follow. I don't know if I'm more of a visual learner, but I do just want to go back and reread this, and I know I want to go back and reread this. So keep my houseplants book. So I keep this on hand in case I get a new plant, or if one of my plants looks sad and I think, oh gosh, what have I done wrong? Which is usually overwatering. I over anticipate how much water plants need. That's what it is. But I do like having this out. I also think it's just a gorgeous book. Like, I feel like if this shelf was empty, I could just stand that and have it as like a feature, decorative and functional. You know how much I am of a fan of things that are both decorative and functional. So I will be holding on to this book, but it's not one I'm immediately going to read, but I would like to leave it out. So I'm just going to have a little side pile, see how I do in a minute. The Secret Garden. Now, I have actually started this book. I'm on page, what am I on? 114, just because for a while, and this is how long ago I started this book, but before we went into lockdown, I kept this book. I say kept it with me, I took it with me if I knew there were places where I would have some downtime. Like if you go for an appointment and you'll be in the waiting room, or you know, if you pick someone up, you're gonna be sat in the car for a while. I had this with me just to read, and so I very slowly crept my way to page 114. And again, this is one I love the movie of. Is it 1993, the movie? 1998, 96, somewhere in the 90s, I can't remember. But the Secret Garden movie, oh, the music. I used to have the Awakening of Spring song from that movie as my alarm clock, just for that moment of, you know, when you wake up and it's like, ah, like, that used to be my alarm on my phone until I got a new phone like 3 and a bit years ago and I haven't put it back on my phone, but that used to be my alarm. I love The Secret Garden. I appreciate with this one, the book is slightly different to the film. I noticed that from just the parts I'd read so far, but another one I do want to read. Goodbye Things. My first minimalism book, perfect for beginners of minimalism. Not in the sense of the complexity, just if you're starting your journey, really good book to have an understanding about why we have things and why we keep things and our decision making in decluttering. Love this. I do want to eventually, she says eventually, get round to making a video about sort of minimalist media in various forms that I use, whether that's documentaries that I've watched, books I've read, apps I use. So I will be holding on to this for that purpose, and before I do that I feel like I will want to go back and reread this just to refresh my mind on it. I read this in a day. I was so proud, but you know, there's a lot of pictures so that takes up some of the space. The works. Look, 3 for £5, and I must have clearly already read one. So at one time I was really into ghost stories. I think I read 2. How did I end up with 4 if they're 3 for £5? Don't know. Maybe I bought one separately. So then I have got The Shadow Hour by Katie... dunno, the sticker's over it. And Thirst by L.A. Larkin, and I also bought Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill at the same time. Loved that book. So I really love a ghost story, anything with a twist, anything like that, which is really surprising because I hate horror films. Absolutely cannot watch a horror film at all, I just don't bother. Love a ghost story, so I'm going to keep these, and I do plan on reading both of them, but they will be very easy to let go. For me, I feel like I'm more clingy with series of books. Like I've said, I've already held on to my Harry Potters, and back in this set I'd kept Game of Thrones even though I'd already read it, whereas when it's just an individual book I feel like they're far easy to let go of. I think I'm the same with movies as well. Like I would find it far more difficult to part with my Harry Potter DVDs or like a whole TV series box set than I would the odd movie. So that's kind of how I think. But keeping those to eventually read at some point. Oh, I was hoping it had all gone on one shelf, but that is clearly not going to happen. Then I've got Wuthering Heights. I read this again during A-level English literature and I loved it. So I would like to go back and reread it because again, I think when I was younger I probably didn't take everything from it. And this is the book I was talking about. I think it's more of a children's book now I think about it, but I mentioned that a couple of years ago I picked up a book that I'd read in school and I thought it was really adorable, and I thought maybe I'd go back and read it again, and that is Michael Morpurgo's Kenzuki's Kingdom. I mean, looking at the size of the text, that's probably quite suitable for my reading speed, but I don't know that I will actually go back and reread it. I kind of want to. I want to recall what it's about, but at the same time I feel a quick, you know, Wikipedia plot synopsis would do the trick rather than me actually reading it again. I think this was only about 30p from a charity shop, so it's not like I'm wasting a lot of money with this, and you know, you can go back to a charity shop and someone else can read it. Does that look really bad if I have those there for decorative purposes because I've put all the others on the bottom shelf? Not very prettily or anything, but quite like how that looks. We'll leave it for now. I'll come back to it. Okay, moving on. I've been sat on the floor so long I've got pins and needles in my foot. Okay, moving on. Next section. You now join me over by the DVD cupboard, which has got extremely messy. So if you will have seen my DVD declutter, you will know that didn't go very well. I had good intentions to declutter, turns out I'm a little bit clingy, and also my husband kind of put in his point of view that there were some things he would rather we held on to, and people really didn't like that. In the comments it was very much, well, they're your DVDs, why can't you get rid of them, why is your husband being a control freak, sort of thing. It wasn't really like that at all. It just seemed like a waste. If it was a movie he personally wanted to keep, regardless of if I'd been the one that had bought it, if he wanted to keep it because he felt he'd watch it, then I don't really see what the issue is there. I feel like we can go through, have a sniff around, see if there's anything that is something I kept just because I would be the one to watch it, and if I can let any of those go. And also just have a bit of a sort out in here because it is very much a mess. This was a naughty one, this showing my age. So I, last time, decluttered the Hannah Montanas, did a car boot sale, no one bought her. Poor Hannah. And then I was like, I really want to watch those again, so I watched them. So yeah, they ended up back in the cupboard after being decluttered and taken to car boot. I've got 2 of the Pirates of the Caribbean films. One of them's done a walkabout, but again, watched those within the last year. I really enjoy the Pirates of the Caribbean films. I only have the first 3 on DVD because after that, you know, I saw the 4th one. I don't even know if I've seen the 5th one. But, you know, without Kira and Orlando, it just wasn't the same for me. and so I never bothered buying the other DVDs after that, but I have seen the others. Right, where? There it is. So I will hold on to these. I'm not going to go into in depth about everything, by the way. I'm just going to flip through and see if there's anything that I feel like I can get rid of. I think the first two Shrek films, I got rid of 3 and 4 in my last declutter. I've not reached for these since. You know, they are adorably funny, but at the same time I can't see myself going back to them, so I'm going to let those go. Ooh, there's a pen in here. Fair dues. I think also one of the problems with being double stacked on the DVDs is that that's why it's getting messy, because before I could literally just slot it right back in where I'd taken it out. Not so much the case anymore. I'm going to get rid of the scary movies. I can't see myself watching those again anytime soon. Ah, there it is. Got it on DVD. Who knew? I've recently rewatched Dawson's Creek. That was one I put on, you know, the background whilst I'm cooking and doing chores. I put that on Netflix, but as I've recently learnt, Netflix can't be trusted. They have now taken down Doctor Who, which I was just heartbroken about. Doctor Who is another one. I don't know now how many times I've watched Doctor Who from, you know, new 2005 season 1 all the way through to the end. But it's a lot because it's what I put on in the background of my life. It's just one of those things that's always on that, and you know, Friends and The Big Bang Theory, really easy things to watch because you've seen them so many times. You can't trust it anymore. You know, I've got The Wolf of Wall Street here. I literally had that on my phone whilst I was doing my makeup this morning, and that's another one that's on Netflix, but you can't trust it to stay on Netflix, so I don't really want to get rid of it just yet. I really know I should just repurchase everything on a digital platform, but that does not seem like a good use of money when I've already spent it on the DVD. I'm going to let Ace Ventura's go. I think that was about it for DVDs. I knew there wasn't going to be a lot. I think until I do start buying the movies that I own on some sort of digital platform, I am going to be reluctant to let them go. And as I've said, I'm very much in a conflict about re-spending money I've already spent on something I've already got, just so I don't have to have it in this cupboard. So we're going to leave that. Still, you know, got rid of a few.